Ross PXF, Planet X Filmworks. Special guest today, Charlie Elliott of the American Spyfox channel. First and foremost, go over there and subscribe. You can find the link to his Patreon below in the description. I think you guys are definitely going to enjoy this episode. We're going to be talking everything grunge rock, grunge history, Spyfox's whole Nirvana series, as well as his other video series, just general grunge history, really. And, then we'll get into the Kurt Cobain history and, conspiracy and the more sensitive stuff. But without further ado, making his debut on PXF, Charlie Elliott, the American Spyfox.
Hey, how you doing?
Welcome, sir. Really appreciate you coming on and doing this. Like I said, I just want everybody to get over to your channel and subscribe. Do you want to start off with a little update of what's going on? I heard there's a rumor you might be coming back with a video soon. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Oh, well, I've already posted videos to Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
As you mean as far as like continuing with the Cobain conspiracy?
As far as, well, obviously, I think it's Nirvana episode 22. Definitely people need to go over to your Patreon and join there so they can see your material. Is that one going to be making a full debut to your actual public YouTube channel, or is that more sensitive these days?
Okay, so here's the thing. YouTube, as I'm sure you do social media yourself, so social media used to be like the Wild West where you could just kind of do anything. But now new laws, new bills are being introduced. Governments are trying to control, as we know, what people say. There was just somebody actually arrested and sentenced in prison to England just for insulting someone on Facebook. Okay. So YouTube's rules are ever changing. I'm not even sure what I'm allowed to talk about. They've removed at least six of my videos dealing with Cobain. So that's why if you look at the Nirvana series playlist, there's videos that are missing.
Mm-hmm.
They removed them and they don't even really tell you why.
That's so ridiculous.
So what you will see on YouTube, I guess it has been damn near almost a year since I've made any videos on YouTube. Time flies so quick, man.
It does.
You will see that appear on YouTube, but it's going to be watered down because I'm trying to avoid getting penalized for using words.
Yeah, the traps. Yeah, I know it got sensitive with the S word, so you were bleeping that out at one point, and just it seems like the censorship is just out of control at this point.
You can't. Well, they also pick and choose. If it's a YouTube channel, say the Discovery Channel has a YouTube channel, they can say whatever the fuck they want. If it's somebody like me who's a nobody, they're going to censor the shit out of you. Oh crap! I just lost my train of thought. The common saying now is if you want to talk about the S word, you say unalive, right? Right. But I'm sure eventually that'll be bad too.
They'll catch on to that. Yeah. I know you had to tiptoe around that one for some point. But
what I was trying to tell you is I received several emails from YouTube basically telling me I'm not allowed to even describe murder. I'm not allowed to describe unaliving. Like it's crazy, man. So it's kind of hard to talk about a murder conspiracy when you can't describe it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me. We've all kind of dealt with the sensitiveness of the YouTube censorship, which is crazy. But once again, welcome to the channel. Thank you for your time. I still want people to go over and subscribe to your channel anyway, just in case you post updates or whatever else they might see.
Oh yeah, I certainly will. I'm just I always put everything on Patreon first, and then it's just kind of like a different version on YouTube.
Sure. Yeah, understood. You got to work around that algorithm. I think Charlie was kind of, wondering why I wanted to talk to him. There's a number of reasons. Mostly his Nirvana series, absolutely excellent. Maybe the best research on the internet. I know Rolling Stone has, linked your videos before. They maybe not, didn't quite credit you, which they probably, you know, could have went further and did so. But I know your stuff has kind of made the rounds. Just so Charlie knows where he's at. I'm official here. You know, we got Alice in Chains vinyl. I don't know if you've heard the Nirvana remaster of In Utero that just came out not that long ago, or if I know some people are not.
I didn't like it. I didn't like it, man.
Yeah,
I'm partial.
You're a purist, right?
No, I'm not a purist. I just, you know, it's just not the sounds that I'm accustomed to. It doesn't give me nostalgia, you know.
I feel you. Yeah, I mean, one thing I did those live tracks, like I was impressed with the quality. I mean, they sound like studio tracks like that.
Well, they're using like, AI.
Yeah, no, I know. Dude, all right, since you brought that up, I know you're like tuned into Nirvana news like I am. You know, we talked a little behind the scenes. Did you see that comment about Chris saying this unfinished Nirvana? I don't know if you spoke on this already. Maybe you have on Patreon. The unfinished Nirvana material, and Chris said he was opening to finishing it with AI. I'm just wondering how you feel about that since you mentioned it.
Hey, I'm totally cool with the guys who were in Nirvana using, you know, whether they have just cassette recordings or I'm sure, I'm positive that they have tons of professional recordings that they don't talk about. Because everywhere they went, they would just visit different studios and fuck around and record. So I'm totally cool with Kristen Dave using AI to finish things. Now, what I'm not cool with is when some jackass like me uses Kurt's voice to sing a song that he wrote. I think that's lame. But if they want to do it, they're Nirvana. They can do whatever they want, you know?
Yeah, fine with Nirvana making the call. That makes a lot of sense. So one thing I've been dying to ask you.
I like that shirt, man. Where'd you get the shirt?
Oh man, I think I got it on Amazon, to be honest with you. But yeah, cool. I thought this was, you don't see too much bleach gear, right? So that's how you know we're tried and true. But just to get into some general grunge theory, and we'll work our way into the sensitive stuff. So like grunge supergroups, you know, like Temple of the Dog, Hungry. I don't think either of us are that big Pearl Jam guys, but we're probably a little bit closer to, you know, Nirvana, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden. But I do like Hungry a lot. And then, of course, Alice in Chains has the Right Turn track featuring Chris Cornell. I just kind of feel like we were robbed of having some of those super collabs with Kurt featured on them, you know, just because of the way things went. I'm just wondering if you feel the same way I feel. Would you have liked to heard, like I would have liked to hear Kurt with Jerry and Lane. You know, I think that
I would have liked to have heard Kurt with Lane.
Yeah, that's what I was.
I think that would have been fucking killer.
Agreed. I just, man, I feel like
I don't like them too. Like Kurt used to do coke with them and shit. Sorry, I probably shouldn't say that.
No, but, I think you're fine as long as nothing happens. You know what I was gonna say is that brings me to. I mean, I think you covered this on your series. Lane and Kurt, they actually had the same dealer, right? And didn't they go and kind of do drug runs together? Which is, and I'm thinking to like, dude. They're riding in the car together to the dealer. What do we got to do to get these guys in the studio? I mean, I know it's too late now, but how did me and Spyfox go back in time in our time machine to get those guys in the studio together? Or maybe, you know.
All right. Well, I have a question for you, man.
Sure.
If you could talk to either Kurt, Chris, or Lane, but only one of them, which one would it be?
Oh, my dude. I would have to unalive myself because that's too much to deal with. I'd have even more trouble with, Kurt, Chris Cornell, or Lane. Yeah, I would have a lot of trouble. I think I would go Kurt. You know, we're both Nirvana guys. I go Kurt, but I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't catch on to Alice in Chains till much after. I mean, I heard their radio singles and stuff, but I was like very deep into Nirvana, Soundgarden, STP. Alice in Chains, I was only really familiar with their radio singles, and I didn't really realize how much heavy metal influence they had and heavier tracks and music they had. So past 5 years, 10 years, I got really deep into Alice in Chains and almost my number one now. It was just much later. In the 90s, 100% Kurt. And then I was like, wow, I didn't realize Alice in Chains had this much good music. What was I doing? You know, it's almost like a problem with me. So,
hey, well, you know, I'm kind of jealous, man, because it's fairly new for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a lot of us who were into it when it came out, we've listened to it so much that now we can't even listen to it.
You maybe burned it out.
Yeah,
that's how I felt. Like I was like, at the same time, I was like, oh my God, I was so late. Like I have to like apologize and bow down to Lane. But at the same time, for like you said, it was like new music for me, like me rediscovering it. So I was like, I listened to Dirt all the time, back to back. And I was even talking to you about Jerry's new stuff, offline. So I'm like, now I'm really, really deep in it. But that's a lot of pressure. But like much like Temple of the Dog, I think like Kurt and Lane, and even Kurt with Jerry and Lane with their dual track vocals that you've discussed in your Alice in Chains theory, I think that would have been the thing. Or even Kurt and Chris, I think that, that kind of like Temple of the Dog, instead of let's sub out Vedder, put in Kurt. I think right there you have a classic, you know what I mean? But it's just, I felt like we got, obviously Mad Season is supposed to be a grunge supergroup. I don't know how you feel about them, but you know what I mean?
Hey, they were different, but they were definitely going to make. I think they would have went on to make great music.
I agree.
Those guys were just so talented. They worked really well together. It's funny. It's weird that you brought up Temple of the Dog, the hunger strike, because recently, a friend of mine, for whatever reason, she had never seen the music video. So we were watching it, and she's like, why is Eddie Vedder standing in a cornfield? He's like hiding in the weeds and shit.
Yes.
It's like, this is the stupidest video I've ever seen.
Video is awesome.
It was the 90s, man. They just did weird shit.
Yeah. It was an era where the song is so good, none of the fans cared if the video was bad. It's just
you said you were a hip hop fan?
Yeah. I used to be a hip hop.
You were a Wu-Tang guy?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love Wu-Tang. I got some personal connections to Wu-Tang.
Have you ever heard the collaboration that Wu-Tang did with System of a Down?
I love System of a Down. Oh, you're talking about the Chavo and RZA thing at Chosen, right?
Something else. It was they did a song called "Shame" on a N-word.
Must have heard. Yeah,
just Google it when we're done, man. Just Google it.
Oh yeah, I'll bump that. Yeah, I love System of a Down, by the way. But I know RZA and Chavo actually had that side project at Chosen that they were doing on the Babylon. What was that movie called? Babylon AD or something like that, the Vin Diesel movie. They were all over that soundtrack. It was actually really good music. It was just Chavo, the bass player, and RZA, obviously the front man of Wu-Tang. But yeah,
I was a skateboarder, and in the 90s we skated to hip hop. Like Method Man, Redman. That was like skateboard music. I don't know why, but whenever I'd go to the skate park, that's what would be playing. Usually Method Man.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I skated too. I wasn't good, but you know what I mean. It was what it was.
Yeah, I never got that great either. I definitely fucked myself up more than I landed tricks.
I know that feeling, man. I know that feeling. But that was. One burning question I always had for you is like, I wonder like if Charlie feels the same way about me about like, obviously Mad Season is really good. I have a funny story about Mad Season. They kept coming up on my, my Genius, Spotify, Pandora, whatever. And this is how ignorant I was. I knew it sounded like Lane, but I really thought it was an Alice in Chains cover band. I was like, oh my God. I was like, that sounds so much like Lane. I was like, this is a really good Alice in Chains cover band. I go look it up. I'm like, no, that's Lane, Ross. You're an idiot. What are you talking about? Like, I was like, that sounds too much like Lane, the best Lane impression I've ever heard.
Yeah, it's crazy. Have you seen like, there's not to get off topic, but there's now AI where, you record yourself talking, saying different words, yelling, and then you can just choose a song and the AI will auto-tune you to sing that song perfectly. It's crazy.
Wow.
So I'm wondering, like, are we ever going to have any more authentic rock bands, or is it going to be all AI bullshit?
Yeah, I agree. That's great question, man. We're focusing on grunge, but Spyfox actually knows metal really well, and he knows the rock genre overall. But I just kind of want to do some general grunge history with you. Obviously, we were talking about the Lane and Kurt relationship because we all knew they knew each other. And then I was just like, dude, how did we not get those guys in the studio when it mattered? It really drives me crazy. I want to go on to some of the more sensitive material, the more controversial videos of Charlie's channel, where he focuses on kind of whatever you want to call it, the last 30 days, last 90 days of Kurt's life, where there's really all these, unexplained questions. There's really two versions of the story. There's the mainstream story, you know, what you know, Courtney kind of was able to spin in the media. And then there's, you know, kind of Kurt's, you know, personal friends and family who all kind of say Kurt wasn't really acting that way. You know, the two don't really mesh to be real. And one of those things, you know, you deep dive this in your series. One of the things that's really the hot button thing on the internet is like Elden Hoke, El Duce of the Mentors. He makes the comment in the Kurt and Courtney documentary where he says it was his friend Alan. I know you've done the Elden Hoke episode. You've done the Alan Wrench episode. Just the way your episode ended, it's a deep dive. It's amazing, but I kind of just expected more. I was like, when Spyfox got to that, I was like, okay, he's doing El Duce. This is going to be the smoking gun. It's going to have some real stuff. And I just felt like you cut it off abruptly at the end. I don't know if you had an extended version on Patreon. Can you just expound if there was more that you found in your Elden Hoke research, or kind of just your thoughts on that whole thing?
Okay. Well, first off, let me say that I've made so many videos on this subject that I don't even remember them all. Like this happened over a period of like 5 years.
Absolutely.
So I'd have to go back and watch the Elden Hoke video and see how it ended. Chances are, if it ended on a cliffhanger, I had every intention of continuing, and then my ADHD just went off and started reading about something else.
That's what I figured.
I jump around, man. Like I get real obsessed with one detail, and then I'm like, fuck that, let's go to you know.
Yeah, sure.
That's why I actually have talked to and people have asked me to remake the whole series, so then it can be more concentrated and loose ends can be tied.
Sure,
you know.
Sure.
But as far as Elden goes, I personally don't believe that Alan Wrench had anything to do with it. Pretty much no, he didn't. But I do believe that Alan Wrench was the kind of guy who would have made his friends believe that he had something to do with it.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I'm saying? He was a manipulator and a liar, a narcissist. And Elden Hoke, you know, not that intelligent of a guy, a drunk. Yeah. I could see Alan convincing Elden that he did it. And Elden believing it, like wholeheartedly believing
it. Yeah. I like your take on that. I mean, obviously, I don't believe it was Alan Wrench. For those who might not be in deep as into this as myself and Charlie, so he's the front man of this Riverside punk rock band, Kill Alan Wrench, and he's a friend associate of Elden Hoke. Where Elden comes into the picture, what I'll do is I'll actually, if you're watching this on PC, I'll link Spyfox's episode right here where we're talking about it. But
unless they've taken it off, you know, videos have been removed over time, so I don't even know if it's still there or not.
Yeah, I'll try to. Hopefully that one's still up. I'll try to find it. Hopefully I'm not making false promises to you guys.
By the way, every episode I've ever made on the case is on Patreon.
Yeah, I definitely want you guys to go subscribe to Charlie's Patreon. You know, like you said, unedited.
I'm not trying to like plug my shit like that. I don't care about that. I'm just saying, like, people still to this day email me and say, where's this episode, where's that episode? Like, YouTube removed it. It's not like I'm hiding it so people have to pay me. Like, YouTube removed the shit.
Yeah, I'm not plugging it because I'm a Spyfox fanboy. I'm plugging it because I want you guys to get the information. And like you just said, if he can't put it on main channel YouTube, then literally the only place you can get it is where he has it protected under his Patreon. So if you want to see it unabashed, unedited, no missing censorship, you definitely have to go there. So the reason why we're bringing this guys up, if you're unfamiliar with the story, guys, and I wholeheartedly believe this, is Elden Hoke. He's from this shock rock band called The Mentors. Charlie has gone in depth in him and in on him and his history in the series. Essentially what happens is Courtney's looking for him, Charlie. She's trying to reach him. She called the record store that he worked at or used to hang out at or whatever.
The rock shop.
Looking for him. She eventually shows up there and they have a conversation in person. I'm sorry, Hole and Courtney fans, you're not going to probably like this next part. If Charlie knows what I'm about to say, if you're from the American Spyfox channel, you know what I'm about to say. The story is she offers Elden $50,000 because she thinks that he's the guy to whack Kurt. Now, you might not like this version of the story. You might not like how this makes Courtney looks, but Eldon actually passes a polygraph test that he was told this. So just for YouTube purposes, I don't want my video flagged. I'm not accusing Courtney of anything, but it's highly likely that she asked Eldon to do that because he never changed his story in any of the video accounts that Spyfox reposted, and he actually does pass the polygraph. It's kind of difficult to rebuttal that, you know what I mean? If it never happened, you know, that's my whole thing. So I'm not saying Courtney did it. You have to go into Spyfox's series to see, you know, eventually how he follows the investigation and what he builds up to. But I'm sorry, guys, if someone's walking around offering $50,000 to take out their husband and the guy passes the polygraph, I don't see how. And like Spyfox said, Elden Hoke is not some, you know, genius mastermind that he's going to be able to outsmart the polygraph. I just don't see that happen. He's just a normal punk rock guy. So just the way that all those dominoes fell in a row, like it was quite incriminating, you know, in my opinion, and what I gathered from your series as well.
Let me add one thing to this.
Yeah.
As you said, Elden Hoke, not exactly a mastermind, right? So one thing that wasn't included in the Kurt and Courtney documentary that you'll find on YouTube later is when Eldon recounts his story to a couple guys at a party and they're just recording with their cell phone. Mm-hmm. He says, basically, they're like, how would you even be near Courtney? Elden Hoke says, well, it was around Christmas and Nirvana was in town. And if you go and look at Nirvana's live history, they were in town right around Christmas. That's so awesome. Like, how would Eldon wouldn't think of a detail like that to include in his story? It kind of like proved to me that he's just going off memory.
Yeah, even that's verified. You know, it's not something he lied about. Like, oh, I think we're doing a show in town, and then you can clearly see the record shows that they were. Kind of speaks for itself, right? Yeah.
Like,
that's super interesting, dude. And just a little bit more about Alan Wrench. So I assume you saw this because of the level of detail that you've gone into investigating. So I don't know if it's still up. At one point, there was this internet blog that some person or troll wrote about this argument between L and Alan, basically after he saw the Kurt and Courtney thing where L name dropped him. He comes in drunk, they start pushing each other, they get in a fight, and then that's supposed to be the night where Eldon, you know, he ultimately walks into that train and he's decapitated or whatever, drunk on the train tracks. Did you ever see that website, or like, do you have any merit to that, or is that just like a story some person wrote? Is there anything true to that fight between Wrench and El Duce? Argument.
Wow, that's really interesting. I have heard that a mutual friend of theirs said that they had been arguing, and apparently, you know, Alan gave El Duce a ride, and all.
Here's the last one to see him.
Here's what I'll say about this. Yeah. I don't know how old Eldon was when he died, when he crossed paths with a train, but I do know that he had made that same walk for years and years drunk.
That's
so
really
like, you know, he'd go to the liquor store or the bar or wherever and then walk home. Like, how do you just all of a sudden decide I'm going to walk in front of a train on, you know, he was familiar with this path. He had walked it drunk hundreds, maybe thousands of times. So I don't think it's any coincidence that the dude met his end with a train. Now, who did it? You know,
that changes it for me because I didn't know, hey, was that the first time he ever walked down that train? You know what I mean? I was just someone who didn't know that. But the fact that you say that's a regular commute for him, that he did, like, that is, and now also not only did he do it all the time without getting hurt, but most people probably know him for that walk. Or at least, you know what I mean? So to be an easy,
they would know this is the route he takes.
Comes from the liquor store or whatever.
And but you know who you might want to talk to, if you can get a hold of him, Max Wallace. Mm-hmm. He knows a lot about Elden Hoke. Like, he's very knowledgeable. You might want to send him a message and see if he'd be willing to talk to you.
Definitely. I mean, I know you had them over, or you've had pretty much all of the book authors over on your channel. They're excellent interviews. I don't know how many of them are still up, but people should check those.
Yeah, I wish I would have done it different. Now, I there was a point in time where I was involved. Instead of being objective, I was involving my emotions. Mm-hmm. And I should have just remained objective, because that's what a good journalist or researcher does. But you know, it's hard to not get your emotions involved when it's like an icon that you know, you know what I mean? Like,
no, absolutely, I know what you mean. I mean, one story I was going to tell you is, you know, as Nirvana fans, you know, we've all kind of, you know, dealt with this. And at the time of Kurt's death, you know, I was getting magazines out of the school library, you know what I mean, Newsweek and whatever, with the covers, and it's like, you know, Kurt Cobain's face, and that said suicide with a question mark. I mean, I had family members who saw that in my room. You know, I'm from like an Irish Catholic background, and you know, it caused a commotion in my family. Like, does Ross want to commit suicide? They thought like I was going to be like a Kurt copycat because I had the magazine in my room. And it's like, lo and behold, flashback to now, people like me and Charlie don't really even believe Kurt committed suicide. So I was taken when I was 10 years old. You know what I mean? Like,
I understand.
Ridiculous.
I understand.
So we all have some connection. You know what I mean? But yeah, just, you know, the Alan Wrench thing is, you know, he goes around and he flashes the cars and the money, and he kind of takes credit for it, so to speak, in so many words. And then people troll him on the Facebook, and they like, you know, this guy's a piece of crap. Like, a lot of people really believe Alan Wrench is the guy who killed Kurt, and he'll respond back from his band account trolling like, Kurt who? And it's like, come on, Alan, Kurt who? Like, you're talking about a guy that broke every record ever versus your local punk rock band. Not to compare the two, but I'm like, dude, to respond like that, like, I don't know. I'm not really pleased the way that guy is like dragging out like Kurt's name. I don't think any of us are as Nirvana fans.
It's terrible, man. And I've even heard people say that they wanted to interview him or whatever, and he'll be like, well, come to my show and buy my CD. Like, it's all about like selling merchandise, and just like you know, there are people who want to be famous so bad that they don't care if they get famous
at any cost. Yeah, that's I mean,
any cost.
I'm not willing to let, like, you know, Kurt's memory be like collateral damage. But yeah, I'm semi-local, so they haven't done a show lately, but dude, I'm really thinking about going down there and just see if I can get him to answer some questions without trolling. Like, hey, dude, I'll interview you, get me the t-shirt, the CD, or whatever, but just give me real answers, man. Don't.
If you're in that guy's vicinity, he's a narcissist. All you have to do is shove a camera in his face. Don't even ask him.
For sure. That's my plan.
Just walk up to him with a camera. He'll start talking.
Yeah, that's totally my plan. I just don't want. I'm gonna be like, hey, dude, you're not gonna disrespect Kurt on my camera, so, you know, however you want to do this, you know. But anyway, Alan Wrench, if you see this, moving on. Yeah, but if I could find that website with that blog, I'm gonna send it to you, because it's kind of seemed like it was written from the perspective of someone who knew both of them, but also like, I can't tell, like, hey, is this just some random website where this guy's telling a tall tale and spinning a yarn that sounds really good, you know?
Yeah.
But I'll if I find it, I'll try to link it to you. The other episode I want to bring up, because I really didn't know anything about. I mean, I may have maybe known this fact, but not really any of the background about it or anything like that, is just Kristen Pfaff's relation to Kurt, relation to Courtney, basically what happens when she wants to leave the band, when she goes home to go join her original band. And I don't know if this episode is still up on Spyfox's channel. I really hope that it is, because this was an outstanding episode. You know, and there, I don't know if there's anybody that knows the bands and knows the band members and music like Charlie does, but I do have a specific, just anything you want to respond to, and then I do have a specific question about her.
You know, it's funny. I was in contact with the other two members of Janitor Joe.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even remember their names now. Hoquium, and I don't remember their names. This is like 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
And they were all about me interviewing them and talking to them until I brought up Kurt's death. And then they ghosted me. Like, they did not want to talk about it at all.
Don't understand.
Period. Either way. Like, they didn't want to talk about it either way.
That says
they were
a
just
lot.
like, they just ghosted me. We went from like being friendly and having conversations online to nothing.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really weird.
That is really interesting. I mean, I kind of have my own feelings on that, but for those who don't know, so Kristen Pfaff was a member of Hole. She was kind of known as like the talented member of Hole because it obviously wasn't Courtney. Much more of a musical pedigree in her background. So I'll try to summarize it a bit. Charlie, I'm going off memory, so hopefully I don't butcher it too badly. But I want to get your take on this final story of her end of days. Very shadowy, much like Kurt's end of days. What's his name? Courtney's little lapdog from, what was it, Eric Erlickson? Is that
Erlinson, yeah.
So he goes and visits her. He supposedly brings her like the gift from Courtney, which is, I think, like what the bag full of like clean needles and I guess the heroin as well. And then while he's up there, her other friend, the other guy, he's down there like in the moving truck, or he's down there in the parking lot, like sleeping in the car. So there's some missing time. We basically have this guy going into her place, coming out, and then, correct me if I'm wrong, that night, Kristen Pfaff overdoses. I'm going to say with quotes.
Yeah, but no one finds her until the next morning.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting to. So she's in the bathtub, or is that correct?
Yeah, she was kneeling on her knees in about 2 inches of water.
That's a strange way to be found. I mean, it's like she's not even taking a bath. You know what I mean?
Right. I think it's almost like maybe she was trying to get up out of the bath and then she just collapsed to her knees, maybe.
Sure.
Obviously she was trying to get up because you don't take a bath on your knees.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's what I mean, that's a strange way to be found. So I want to get, I know you have the in-depth episode on it. I would, reference people there. If it's not on YouTube, then you're just going to have to go find it on Charlie's Patreon. But can I get a hot take from you? So do you just have that guy going in there and kind of giving her the bad dose, the spiked heroin, or do you think it's more nefarious than that, and that he had like a direct hand in it? Because I'll just be honest, that's what it looks like to me. And dealing with the people we're talking about, I don't put nothing past him, Courtney and Eric.
Well, I don't trust. I don't trust Eric. And there's a lot that can be added to that. The way he's acted throughout his life, like he ended up marrying a woman that looked just like Kristen. Yeah. He disappeared and became like a Buddhist monk for a while. There seems to be a lot of guilt.
Yeah.
In him, if you read his ridiculous poetry book, which is the biggest piece of literature garbage I've ever read in my life, a lot of it is just like sounds like things from Nirvana songs and a bunch of gobbledygook that makes no sense. But the only things that make sense in his entire book is guilt and shame and remorse. Yeah. And I personally believe that she was given a hot shot. Mm-hmm. And it's very obvious that it came from Eric. Right. I can't believe the Seattle police didn't. The I'm trying to remember his name. The guy who was sleeping in the U-Haul. He was so I
know it's in your episode.
Yeah. That guy says, I went and knocked on the door, and it sounded like she was snoring in the bathtub, so I just left her alone.
Yeah. What?
And the police aren't like, what?
Yeah. They're like, because it was, 94 Seattle or, whatever year it was shortly after, so just the way they handled the Kurt murder scene, or excuse me, the Kurt death scene, if you will, it's kind of the same thing, right? Oh, it's another one of these rock people in the bathroom. It's like, they're not going to look into it, like that's how it feels.
It's so silly though. I'm talking about the reason why I'm leery about the friend, the guy who went cross country with her to help her move, is he knows that she's an addict. She's only been clean for a very short period of time. Right. He knows she has told her friends and family, these people in this band are terrible. They got me addicted. They're treating me like shit, blah, blah, blah. So he's aware. I mean, Eric's in the band, right? Yep. Why would he just be like, well, Eric came to visit her. Now she's asleep in a bathtub and I'm just going to leave her alone. Yeah. Like, why wouldn't you kick the door open and throw a towel over her and wake her up and say, did you do heroin? did this
Yeah.
guy
Did
bring
you
you
take
heroin?
anything? Right.
Like he was obviously not a very smart friend, or
Yeah. I was sleeping in the U-Haul. Like, and I think that's an important part of the story. Like, I mean, Charlie cues it up really good in his episode, but packing all her stuff to leave, move back home to her home state, go back to her original band, literally with the U-Haul in the parking lot. It's like it's almost like the Kurt timeline. And you've drawn the references, obviously, in your series. It's like the night you're moving, and she's been clean, like much like the, Kurt scenario. I know Kurt broke out of Exodus and blah, blah, blah. We can talk about that. But that one really had me astounded when you released it. Cause I was just like, like I said, I had kind of heard whispers of the story, but never really knew the details. And then you were like, okay, oh, he goes up there and the other guy's sleeping in the parking lot. What? And then no one checks on her till morning. Are you kidding me? Like that.
By the way, that guy's still around, and he makes music and he tries to promote himself and blah, blah, blah. The only people who could fill in those answers that, to the questions that we ask will not talk.
Right.
Like he could fill in more answers.
Yep.
The guys in Janitor Joe could fill in more answers.
Yep.
Does anybody know if Guy Mankowski's book about Kristen Pfaff ever came out? Like, he was telling me it was going to come out, and he like gave me some, like, the first couple chapters, and then I just never heard anything about it again.
Interesting.
So that whole thing is so weird. Like, I could go into some weird shit dealing with that family, bro. Like,
yeah, I know
they are more concerned about continuing. See, once Kristen passed, in her contract, her royalties would go to next of kin. So they're not a wealthy family. Their entire lives have been taken care of by royalties from Hull. And they are more concerned with keeping those royalties and obeying Courtney's non-disclosure agreement than seeking any kind of justice for their daughter.
That is extremely unfortunate.
I think if they came out and did say everything they could say, Kurt and Kristen fans would give them money to replace the royalties. You know what I'm saying? Like, people would support them.
Yep.
But like, the whole time they were like asking me to talk about it, but don't say this and don't say that, and it just got so weird. And I'm like, why can't we say this? Oh, because then they'll be disobeying Courtney's non-disclosure agreement, and they won't get the royalties anymore.
Yep.
So, like,
the money train. Yeah, man.
That's
great points. I mean, it just, once you drew the parallels, it just struck me as Kurt, much similar to how Kurt is found, and I'm like, I don't trust any, just as a random, Nirvana fan. I was probably 10 in 94, barely, maybe 9. I was like, I don't trust any of these people, so if he went up there and gave her the hot shot, then I can have him administering the hot shot to her himself, because up until this point, I cannot put anything past these people, like, it's clearly Courtney. He's basically Courtney. He's basically the second one.
I've said that a lot.
Yeah, it's tough. You know what I mean?
Court and Courtney.
So, verbal gymnastics. But, he, like Charlie said, he's basically second in command of Hull, or, if you want to even consider them that, because he's more like her assistant. But, it just seemed like, dude, the fact that Seattle PD or just any law enforcement is just not willing to look into any of this stuff with a track record these people have is absolutely insane, But I could keep us. So, yeah, go
ahead. I have kind of pondered if somebody did it to her. With Kurt, you had, we're a massive amount of dope and then a shotgun. Have you ever lived in an apartment where you can fill the bathtub with water and there's a very slow leak? Like, the water will drain very slowly. I thought, like, was her shotgun the water? Maybe they put her in there to drown in case the dope didn't do its job, but the water slowly leaked out, and that's why there was only about 1.5 inches of water come morning time.
That's a good
know
point.
What I'm saying?
That's a great point.
But it's just a thought, just speculation.
Yeah. I could see it. I could for sure. I mean, again, the stuff we're dealing with, like, if there was a place where anyone came out with the most, Charlie would be one of the best investigators on it. But once you start looking at the details, just nothing adds up. I'm going to move on to Hank Harrison, Love Kills, because I did read his book. That's obviously, like, Courtney's biological father, who, for those who don't know, he used to be a manager of the Grateful Dead back when they were the Warlocks. Just an interesting guy. He has a lot of interesting spirituality theories, I'll say. I think you had contact with him, or you had him on the channel, if I'm not mistaken. You interviewed him, if I'm not mistaken.
Not really. Like, I had a phone conversation with him, and then like he kept telling me he was going to do an interview, and Hank's a real weird guy, man. Like,
he's very hot and cold.
Yeah, you have to catch him in the right mood on the right day. Like, he would do, like, we would schedule an interview, and then the time would come to do it, and he'd be like, "Oh, can't do it today, gotta feed my chickens." Like, he was just a weird guy, and he would fuck with you. Like, he enjoyed fucking with people. So unfortunately, that's why a lot of people don't take him seriously, because he enjoyed being the smartest guy in the room and trying to make a fool of other people.
Sure. Yeah. So he wrote this book called Love Kills. Despite being Courtney's biological father, you're going to learn some real interesting things about Courtney's origin and how she grew up. And, Charlie's done a great job talking about, her name popping up in Jeffrey Epstein's little black book, just some of her sort of nefarious connections. I don't know if you've read Chaos by Tom O'Neill about the whole Charles Manson thing, but it almost bespeaks that she's one of those drug agents, because Charlie's covered this. She shows up in these hip music scenes, and this is even way before grunge, 70s, 80s, 90s. She's supplying massive amounts of LSD. It really doesn't even make sense how she could obtain some of this stuff. I mean, at early age, she was kind of like a traveling stripper and or dancer, so she's just kind of always in the right place.
Dude, you know that her biographer originally described her as a part of the sex trade, but they changed it to stripper, dancer, blah blah blah. Like, she was basically a prostitute,
part-time stripping, but doing a lot more escort.
Well, both. You do both to double your money, right?
Sure.
Or triple your money.
Sure. And I think Hank even called her on that, of her turning tricks and stuff. Like I said, biological father, albeit highly critical of her. So what I want to come to is, he comes a little bit different to a conclusion of what you and I have come to. We obviously think it's more pointing in the direction of a Courtney and a money thing, but I just want to get your thoughts on, Harrison pushes it. I think I saw somebody from, a famous band made the statement recently. It's kind of like the label against Kurt. So a lot of people like Hank make this, it's all a corporate label thing, and Kurt is, worth more money dead than he is alive. I mean, that doesn't really make sense to me, especially in the convoluted way Harrison presents it. But I mean, I know you've probably responded to it, just whatever your take is on that kind of corporate label theory.
I don't buy into the David Geffen had Kurt Cobain killed. However, I will say this: it is interesting that Iggy Pop, who knows the music industry, who's been in the music industry for 50 years,
I know,
said what he said. He said, he knew too much, he was worth too much, he had to die. You've probably seen that Iggy Pop interview or whatever. So I don't think that it was Geffen or anything like that. Kurt, dude, they sold millions and millions of records. They could have had another Smells Like Teen Spirit in just a couple years. That's
my point. Why would you cut the golden calf off? Why would you cut off the cash cow? The golden goose,
Now, if several years had went by and he's not writing any more hits, and he's then maybe we turn him into a legend, Sure. But that dude was making the money anyway.
No, I mean, Nevermind and In Utero were both at their heights. You already had Incesticide and whatever else was planned.
Even Bleach, after Nevermind, Bleach sold 1 million records
through the roof. So I mean, it doesn't. I mean, again, if you guys want to check it out, the book's called Love Kills by Hank Harrison. It's coming slightly rare. I don't know how many copies are out there. I did manage to get one.
He was self-published. So once those are sold, they're gone. There's no publisher out there making them. There are interesting points in the book. You just have to kind of,
sift through,
take and leave,
he goes off on tangents. He's like, so this is when I met Kurt. This is when I met Courtney, and then I was investigating, giant rocks in Ireland. He goes off on, and don't get me wrong, I love that kind of stuff, but I'm like, that's not why I'm reading.
Knowledgeable about ancient ancient Celts, and he's written books about the Celts.
Mysticism. Yeah, it's very interesting, but like, I don't mix my grunge with Irish mysticism. So
right,
Hank threw me some curveballs, and I was like, dude, I'm trying to learn something.
Right.
But yeah, we'll go a little bit closer to Kurt. We'll get a little bit closer to home, to Kurt's last days. Real quick, I think one way to kind of segue and bring this up, and I do have specific questions on Callie DeWitt, is just soaked in bleach. I know it's not perfect. Charlie has been critical about it here and there. I mean, I kind of use that for like red pilling people. I'm like, hey, are you a Kurt Cobain fan? Are you a Nirvana fan? What do you know about his death? Do you think it was suicide? I'm like, you should check out Soaked in Bleach. But I don't give it to them as like a, hey, if you want details, go to American Spyfox's channel. That's what I usually say. You know what I mean? But just to get your take, because I don't think it's all bad. I know it's not perfect, but like, I know you've got issues with it.
I don't recall ever criticizing Soaked in Bleach. I would criticize Tom Grant, but I don't think I've ever criticized the documentary. If I did, tell me, dude, and I'll speak about it. But there are a couple things that I would criticize, like the animation is incorrect in the film.
Yeah. Sure.
I don't like it that we've never got to hear the full phone recording. So you don't know if Courtney's being gaslighted and being asked. She could be getting asked questions to make her talk about certain things.
Right.
No one has ever been allowed to listen to the full phone recordings. And as you said, I've talked to everybody who originally invested, except for Richard Lee. Yeah. And even when I talked to Wallace, he'd only heard sound bites. So, if you're going to be completely objective, you have to give Courtney the benefit of the doubt. And you have to say, was she being gaslit, or, was she really just a nasty fucking selfish cunt?
Yeah.
We don't know the answer to that.
10 to 20 second, clips.
What's weird is like, you're not a patron, right?
I'm a member on your YouTube channel, but I'm not on the Patreon. But
okay. I just put out a video where I was talking about Mark Lanigan and his account compared to Soaked in Bleach's account that I just posted like a day or two ago. So that's why I was wondering, because the first time I've ever really criticized that documentary was just a couple days ago. So I was wondering if you watched it or something.
No, I thought you said something back in the day about like those guys just, I guess the main producer or whoever, like him just kind of being like, a kid that just, had a trust fund or whatever.
Oh yeah. He's the son of a billionaire.
Yeah, I didn't even know that until you said it.
I was told the whole story. Like he didn't do anything, man. He didn't do anything. If you look in the fine print, there's an Oscar award-winning director that he hired to actually direct the film.
Sure.
And then he just got his picture taken in the director's chair.
Yeah, he was an executive producer.
He just provided the money.
Connections go a long way. That brings us to Cyril Wetch, Dr. Cyril Wetch. You did interview him, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he was a good guy.
He's massive. I'm sure you guys have heard of him. He's all over the internet. He's essentially an expert on the JFK, debunking the single bullet theory. Just as I guess I would call him the internet's autopsy expert, maybe autopsy.
He was Dr. Wecht was the guy that discovered JFK's brain was missing.
Yeah, that's utterly insane. So here you have a guy who almost all of us consider the authority on JFK, at least those of us who don't believe the mainstream narrative. And then he looks into Kurt, and then he has problems with that. And you're not talking about some local dentist. You're talking about, like you said, you say he did 10,000 autopsies, or was it more than that? Like the amount of
40. He supervised or conducted over 41,000 autopsies. The guy had a 60-year career.
Yeah, I don't think anybody has that credential. No one I've ever heard of. So when someone like that says, "Hey, there's problems with this Kurt Cobain murder scene," I'm paying attention. Rest in peace to the doctor. He passed away recently, unfortunately. But hopefully the stuff Charlie put up with him is still up, and you guys can go see his take on that. But whenever he's talking about the Kurt case, I'm listening, because he's like, hey, listen, the amount of heroin in the bloodstream, just everything else, mostly that. But, the rest of the crime scene is a bit strange as well. So, I mean, maybe I'll try to prime this up for you again. I'm going off memory. It's been years since I've seen some of your episodes, but they're still locked in. So the way that Kurt's found, stuff is neatly put away. His hair is kind of streamed out on the floor. Didn't Courtney say he was wearing that jacket, but he wasn't even wearing that jacket? It was like over on the, it was on the, it wasn't even there. Like he wasn't wearing it. It was there, but he wasn't wearing it.
She said she washed blood out of it.
That was crazy. I don't know what that was. But then, so he puts everything neatly away after injecting this lethal dose of heroin and then shoots himself with the shotgun that Dylan Carlson bought for him, which is later wiped down, containing no fingerprints, including Kurt's, Dylan's, or the guy who would have sold it to them at the store. Literally not one print on it, which is ridiculous, So what I'm going
there could have been prints. As you probably, if you watched the interview I did with the Seattle police captain, he said the gun was stolen from the evidence locker, and then it reappeared 30 days later. That's why they didn't print it. They never told the public that before, but he spilled the beans on it. It wasn't because they just didn't think to do it. It's because somebody actually stole the gun. So it could have been stolen, wiped, placed there 30 days later. It's fucking ridiculous. The whole thing stinks,
bro. It's so obnoxious. I mean, I don't know if you know, but actually you've seen some of my old episodes. I do a lot of the Zodiac killer, Northern California, late 60s.
I'm really into the Zodiac thing, man.
And there's major, I'd say almost the exact same problem. Detectives were taking the Zodiac letters home and reading them with their families,
showing them to friends, and
that evidence got
trying to sell the shit.
Whenever I hear this chain of custody thing, it drives me utterly insane. A problem in Zodiac, problem in Kurt. It's just like, what is going on with these 60s and 90s? I don't know. I hate to be overly critical of law enforcement. When you hear something like that, like the shotgun that was found next to Kurt was missing for 30 days. What's going on here?
Well, they'll duplicate things too, and like hand copy shit, and then they can say this is the real thing from the blah blah blah. Like that happens all the time in all kinds of cases. Police officers are just humans, and humans like to do weird shit. So that's well, we don't have to go down that road, but if it's somebody famous, chances are things have been stolen, they've been shared, they've been copied. Like anybody would do it, dude, if they were in a position to show their friends and family or whatever. Yeah.
It's just like, man, like from Kennedy's brain going missing to Kurt's shotgun going missing to the Seattle police captain said there were cops trying to buy the shotgun. Yeah, that's just utterly insane. Now, I mean, we can. So what I'm coming to is Michael Cali DeWitt. He actually lives in the house with Jessica Hope, is his girlfriend at the time.
Hopper.
Excuse me, I messed that up. Jessica Hopper. So those two, I don't think a lot of people know this that aren't quite as deep into the story as me and Charlie are. So Kurt is found above the, I guess, garage. What do they call that? The garden house? I forget what the actual.
I think it's just room. A greenhouse.
Yeah, greenhouse.
Because it had big skylight windows.
Yeah.
So they call it a greenhouse. Yeah.
Yeah. So Kurt's found in the upper level of the greenhouse, but in the main house, the main mansion, I guess is I know it's owned by some like Starbucks exec at one point. I don't know if it still is. The main house, Courtney, I guess the babysitters, but they're essentially two, lap dogs that she controls through drug addiction, which is Michael Cali DeWitt and his girlfriend Jessica. They're in the house.
Not only addiction, she gave them careers.
Yeah.
I mean, Cali was a roadie for Hole. And her fuck buddy on the road.
Yep.
And Hopper was an aspiring writer. Courtney paid for her fanzines to be published.
Yeah.
So they're not only getting dope from her, they're also getting careers from her.
Yeah. So she fully controls them. She bankrolled them. Both of these people, this is the point I want to hammer home. Both of these people are in the house when Courtney, I did it again, when Kurt committed suicide. It's so rough. When Kurt committed suicide, hopefully that doesn't get my thing censored. They're in the house, and then
I wouldn't have said that, bro. You're probably gonna get an email from YouTube.
Yeah, I hope I don't, but we're gonna make this interview a little bit extended and try to hide it in there, like I never said that. But so they're in the house. The story is Kurt comes in. He sits on the bed. Jessica's sick in bed, whatever that means. And he sits on her bed. He says like, hey, blah, 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 I'm here. And then, they say that's the last time they saw him. But there was the clip of when Grant was talking to Courtney, and you had that episode where she's like, oh yeah, I hope Michael didn't hear it. I hope he didn't see it. And we were all like, whoa, wait a minute. Come on, man. How can you make a comment like that? Like, you're basically putting a witness at the murder scene, and no one's ever questioned this guy. Like, what did Seattle PD ever question Callie DeWitt?
Right. No,
we were sleeping in bed sick. Yeah, they're in the house. They're in the house. Like, what's going on? Like, that drives me crazy.
Somebody died, like a worldwide celebrity died, and they didn't question the people in the house.
The people,
what the fuck?
And then there's the root beers. There's the empty root beers there. So it's almost like Kurt was chilling with someone playing music or whatever. I mean, I don't know, bro. Like, Callie is pretty much my suspect, because I don't see how he can be at the scene of the crime
involved.
And not
Callie
have anything
DeWitt,
to do with it.
Yeah,
with
Callie DeWitt's involved.
Yeah,
I don't think Jessica Hopper's involved, but I'm sure she's I think that she put together 2 and 2 after the fact.
Right.
And she never went back to Courtney again. I know that because I read an article Jessica Hopper wrote for the Chicago Tribune.
Yeah.
And she said, I ran into Courtney at an airport. I had not seen her since April of '94. I had not talked to her since Kurt Cobain died. So she literally, when she left, she fucking left.
Yeah.
Like,
that's I'm sure she was sleeping. That's damning.
And this was the woman who was bankrolling her magazine.
Her whole career. Yeah. Like
her whole career.
So there's 2 people in the house. This guy's never questioned. We all know. I guess it's kind of jumping ahead, but Callie DeWitt gets the $50,000 payment from, is it around that, or 30, whatever, for his rehab?
I think it was like 35, and supposedly he went to rehab, but there's no actual record of him ever being in rehab anywhere. He just kind of disappeared. He disappeared, just like Jessica Hopper.
Yep. And we could even get a lot deeper. Really what my question was coming to, because I did read this in Hank's book, was I posted this in our Spyfox group on the YouTube. You guys can join us on there. On Facebook. You guys can join us there. But Michael Callie DeWitt's dad's construction company is the one that tears down the greenhouse. Yeah. And some people were like, well, that could just be using someone that I'm like, yeah, it's using someone that but it's using someone that was really close. It's using the guy who was there at the site of the crime.
The police aren't thinking, well, this is strange. We had a death scene here, and now it's being torn down by people who are in the inner circle. And he didn't even have a construction company. He was an independent contractor.
Okay.
Like he had to rent the goddamn equipment just to tear it down.
So it's not some well-established demolition company that
it's a fucking handyman.
I don't even know that part. That's even worse.
It's just hiring a guy who does odd jobs to clean up your mess. Exactly. Did you know that both Callie and his father had to sign a non-disclosure agreement that they would never, in their entire lives, they're not allowed to tell anyone where they disposed of the debris.
Wow. I'm trying to think if he had in there or if you mentioned it. I might have heard it from one of you guys.
I don't remember if I mentioned it in a video. I just mentioned it now.
That brings more cadence to my argument, because I think me and Charlie are both going in the same direction here. If I'm not wrong, which that's pretty bad, dude. I always had a big issue with that. I mean, there's so many dimensions to this. I don't really care to talk about this. My friend, we'll touch on it briefly, or if Charlie even wants to. My friend Fire Pixie is asking me about how the story of how Kurt was treated at the funeral home. You've covered that on your series. I'm not a big fan of that story.
Oh yeah, all we know is the funeral home did pay Wendy O'Connor, Kurt's mother, and Courtney an undisclosed amount of money. They settled out of court. We don't know what exactly happened, but the gist was people. There's somebody banging on my door, by the way, and I have no fucking clue who it is. So if you hear dogs barking, I'm just gonna wait until they quit. Nobody should be banging on my door. Anyway,
leave them alone.
What the fuck was I talking about? Oh yeah, we don't know what was done to Kurt, but apparently Courtney was alleging that some people who were supposed to stay there overnight and watch his body, like they said they danced with his body while listening to Pearl Jam, and they cut his hair, and like we don't know the extent of it, but what we do know is the funeral home did settle out of court, which is kind of like an admission of guilt.
Showed something happened. I agree. Well, there you go, Fire Pixie. I hope you're happy. That's my friend though. So yeah, I mean, again, it harkens back to Charlie's Nirvana series, but like I thought you hammered this really well in the episode, the Kurt Rome incident. She basically says that he OD'd on those pills, which is seemingly not the case. Like unless Courtney spiked his drink with was that the Rohypnol or?
Yeah, the Rohypnol. She said that he had. She told the press he had taken like 50 Rohypnol, and then the Italian doctor who actually pumped his stomach said no, there weren't that many.
Exactly.
I want to show you something real quick.
Yeah, who are you going to trust? It's obviously going to be the Italian doctor.
So the last two videos I've made, which I'm just now starting to upload videos again.
Sure.
A lot of the information came from Everybody Loves Our Town by Mark Yarm.
Oh, you mentioned that too,
I've found an even new account in this book. I didn't think it was possible, dude. I thought it was done. Yep. I thought there's nothing else to talk about. There couldn't possibly be more story to this. And then I started reading all these interviews in this book. The Rome incident is not, as we know later, Courtney would say, oh, he tried to unalive himself.
Yeah, that's where I was getting
in this book. She says that was the second attempt, and there was a first attempt back in December, and she talks about it in this book.
She keeps adding
there's things that Nicholas Hartshorn says in this book, and I'm just like, people have come across this information, but they just didn't have a social media platform to talk about it, right? So it's not like I'm finding something new. It's just I'm the first YouTuber to talk about it.
Sure.
So that's what the next couple episodes are about, is like this whole new account that puts this whole new spin to things, and Mark Lanigan is in there too. So and yes, that will appear on YouTube. I'll try to watch it as quickly as possible because they might take it down.
Awesome.
But,
exactly. If you see Charlie put something up, make sure you jump. Matter of fact, set notifications so you can jump on it quick, because we don't know what's going to happen here. But I always had a problem with the Rome incident. Like the way you said it, she takes the time to do her makeup and look pretty before she comes outside for the photo op, like pretty much not caring about the condition Kurt was in, as in, he could have basically expired at any time after that incident, and she'd been seemingly fine with it,
Right. I was sent a long time ago, when I first started writing the series, this guy from London named Steven sent me some Nirvana memorabilia. And one of the things he sent was, do you remember NME newspaper? I think it was an English thing. Back in the 90s, there were enough rock bands that they had whole newspapers dedicated to just rock news.
Oh yeah.
And he sent me this, and I had never read it until recently, because it's just kind of like a piece of Nirvana memorabilia. But I finally actually started reading it. There's an hour by hour account in this newspaper from March of '94 with statements from Courtney Love about the entire Rome incident. So that's going to be in a new episode too.
Nice. That's awesome.
And it's like accounts from the time it happened. It's not after the fact.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So thank you. I'm going to have to give that guy a huge shout out in the video too for sending me that.
Hell yeah, man. That's awesome. Definitely looking forward to that episode. That brings me to Dylan Carlson. This guy, he kind of goes up there with some of the others we've mentioned. So this guy is Kurt's best friend, but he's also has his drugs supplied by Courtney. he's the guy who buys Kurt the shotgun. So Curtis, I guess, there is a reason.
Yeah, they interview him. They interview him in this book as well.
Interesting. Yeah. Now there is a reason for that, because there were crazy fans or whoever random showing up at Kurt's house and looking through the windows. So he wanted to, so he wanted to protect his family. So I can understand that part. But then the way me and Charlie look at it, it seems like the enemies, might have been closer to Kurt than he even knew. But, the way this guy, we'll just talk about the Kurt and Courtney documentary, the one we referenced earlier. When those are the British journalists and stuff. I know that's outdated. What was that, mid 90s or late 90s? I'm not even sure when that came out. But,
around 97, 98.
Yeah, they interview this guy, and he basically says, nah, I didn't think anyone, I was his best friend. I didn't think anyone was after Kurt. If I thought somebody was after Kurt, I would have done something about it myself. That's what he says in the documentary. However, he's also the guy that led Tom Grant into the house when Kurt was lost, and Courtney hired Grant to go find him or whatever. So he recruited Carlson. So they actually have the recordings of them going to the house looking for Kurt. And then, what does Grant say about that, Charlie? He says he felt like Dylan was holding back. He brought him into the main house, and he felt like Dylan knew more than he let on. So I'm sure you've covered it many times in your series, but I'm just wondering your take on Dylan Carlson. This guy's way too close to the thing. He's way too close.
Well, here's what's interesting, because your questions align with the video I just made and put on Patreon. Okay. Mark Lanigan. So if you watch Benjamin Statler's documentary Soaked in Bleach, it leads you to believe that it was Tom and Dylan, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Well, Mark Lanigan was with them too, but for some reason they never talked about Mark Lanigan.
I did not know that. I did
You
not
didn't know that? Mark
Lanigan,
Lanigan, before he died, wrote a couple books, and he even talked about the day that he one of the voices you hear in that recording where they're yelling Kurt is Lanigan.
Okay, I did not know that.
They never mention Lanigan, and Lanigan's account is different from the account you get in Soaked in Bleach.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's what my newest video is all about.
I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah, it'll pop up on YouTube. Like I said, it might be watered down. It might be edited some to get around their policies, but it is interesting, man, that there are two different accounts out there.
Yeah.
And here I feel like a dope, because here I am for the last 4.5-5 years researching this thing, and I just found out about this myself. Like, what the fuck?
You're the guy, but this is the thing. You still came to it before me, but I'm not on the case quite as you are. That's why you're here. Then there's the other Kurt's little retreat cabin. You've talked about it many times. Yeah. Kurt had his little and the way that the stuff is set up there, it's like the empty sleeping bag with like empty bags of crap, and it's almost like Courtney or one of her lackeys put it there to like make it look like Kurt was there, but he wasn't even.
Yeah, but at the same time, Kurt was a rural. A lot of people think of him as a city boy. He was a country boy.
Yeah,
he was. I could see Kurt Cobain passing out on a fucking floor, not giving a fuck. But do I think he was there? No.
Right.
But it's not beyond the realm of possibility.
Maybe at some point.
He used to go there to shoot guns and fish and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. So just random spitballing. On the day, Kurt's last day, do you have anyone else like maybe being there other than Callie DeWitt? Do you think Dylan could have been there? Do you think they're like, I don't know if you've already covered that in your videos, but do you think there could be anything different than what we don't already know that, that's been reported?
I would say, it would just be a complete guess. Like there's no evidence to prove that anyone was there, right? Except for like Callie and Jessica.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't doubt it if there were more people there. I also, another thing that's in this video is this author interviewed a neighbor that lived in the house behind Kurt and Courtney, and what she has to say is very interesting.
I like that.
So, and like I said, man, the more you dig into this thing, the crazier it gets. And every time I think like, God, I'm finally done. Like I can lay this to rest and it's over.
Something more comes up.
You find more shit and and it just more questions. It's like, and I wouldn't even call it a rabbit hole, because a rabbit hole is like confusion. Like the more you dig, the more clear the truth becomes.
It kind of straightens out the narrative, in this case.
Yeah, but the problem is so many different stories and
conflicting. I mean, Zodiac's like that a lot too. You get like.
I mean, did you see the ridiculous? Did you see the ridiculous interview this dude did? Like a podcast with like 1 million fucking subscribers. This guy is saying he's a Cobain expert. He said Kurt's head was blown out. He said there was a muzzle on the gun, which there was no muzzle on the gun.
Yeah, he doesn't know what a shotgun is.
He said that the point of a muzzle is for unaliving prevention. That's what this guy said. And I'm like, the point of a muzzle is to make it more powerful so the grouping stays together for a longer period of time so you have a more powerful shot. Like everything this dude said was ridiculous. And people are like, oh yeah, this is great because it was on such a big podcast. But it's no, did Courtney Love hire this guy? like everything he said is wrong.
Yeah.
And people were cheering him.
Yeah.
While at the same time putting words in my mouth saying I said shit I didn't even say. Like fucking.
Yeah, that's another
frustrating
Cobain expert. We get a lot of those Zodiac experts too that don't even really know the basics of the canonicals, and just, they start with their spiel. We're just like wrong. It's just all wrong.
Hey, by the way, Zodiac was never caught, right?
Cold case, unsolved cold case.
But do you have an idea of who it probably was?
Have you seen the movie Zodiac 2007?
It was a long time ago.
They essentially rest on Arthur Lee Allen in that movie.
Okay, yeah, I remember that name. Okay,
because
he had a watch.
Yeah, Zodiac watch. Yeah.
Okay.
The thing is, Arthur Lee Allen had bad feet. He had gout. His forensics didn't match. They do have his brain. Unlike Kennedy. So they have, if they had, you like that? If they had, forensics, they could test it to Arthur Lee Allen. There's a lot of interesting things about him, about the letter writing, words he used and such. Lately, my friend Drew Beeson has had a really good theory. He has his own channel on missing people and Zodiac. But the guy who actually leaked Allen's name from the police is named Donald Lee Cheney. And if you look at his suspect profile, it's actually much closer to what the Zodiac should be than Arthur Lee Allen. So that, there could be an interesting dynamic there. Perhaps somebody Allen may have known kind of scapegoated him. But there's nothing definitive. I mean, there's probably 5 or 10 major suspects. And I'm still working through it in my main Zodiac series, like you're working through your Nirvana series.
Okay. But hey, by the way, just to throw this in there, I just recorded a video about Jack the Ripper.
Nice.
And I am going to put that on YouTube if anybody's interested in that.
Yeah, that's great. Now, me and my friend Ned DeHaan, who does Black Box Online Radio, he's been doing a lot of Jack the Ripper stuff. And we actually did a whole episode about Jack the Ripper. And have you ever heard of the Texarkana Moonlight Murders, the Texarkana Phantom? There's a movie called, what's it called? The Town That Dreaded Sundown. Check out that movie. And that's it's in 46. It's very close to the blueprint of what the Zodiac murders are like. Ambushing male-female couple on lover lanes. And then, of course, Zodiac adds the letter writing campaign, much like Jack the Ripper. So they're a very good argument that Zodiac knew about those previous predecessor serial killers, and he kind of mimicked their tactics, with the letter writing campaign from Jack, and even words he used very similar to some of Jack's verbiage. Zodiac was a big fan of British literature and things of that nature, so he had a lot of references to something called the Mikado and other kind of thing. He said "Happy Christmas," which is more of a British saying than it is an American saying. So there could be a lot more Jack the Ripper influence on Zodiac than what we actually know of. I'm sorry that's off topic, guys, but me and Charlie are both into serial killer true crime. So
I think I would also in the future like to branch out into other true crime. So I'm cool with talking about whatever.
Yeah. Hey, you ever want to do Zodiac with me? I'll give you my whole theory on it. But I'm gonna get us back on topic. So when I read, is it "Come as You Are" is the Azarad book, the Nirvana biography, by by this guy Michael Azerrad. So I found out about that from Charlie's channel, and I went and read that, and I liked the majority of it from a biographical perspective. What I didn't like, Charlie, was something I think we both arrive on: how towards the end he embraces the Kurt unaliving himself narrative, and he's like, "Oh yeah, and by the way, I totally saw it coming." And I was just
right.
I was like, why did you even put this in here? At that time, you weren't even in contact with Kurt anymore. You know, Courtney had cut off his access. So, like I said, I think he did a really good job with Nirvana history, but I felt like putting that in was an unnecessary cherry on top. I was like, I don't agree with this, man. Like, you shouldn't have put this in a Nirvana biography, you know?
He even, I think he's talked about re-releasing the book with like extra chapter and stuff like that. He did it once, and I think he's now talking about doing it again. And when he added the extra chapter, it was all like, I totally knew this was going to happen. And it's like, no, you didn't.
I couldn't stand that.
No, you didn't at all. You didn't know that.
Yeah,
like,
he's like,
whenever somebody kills, whenever somebody unalives themselves, people will say, oh, well, they were depressed that one time.
Yeah.
Everybody gets depressed. Everybody gets angry. You could say that about anyone, you know?
Meet him on a bad day. Yeah. Oh, I met that guy. Right. He was having a bad day. Like, nah, bro, that ain't how it goes.
He was having a bad day. He was married to Courtney Love. Like, every day is going to be a bad day. Like, that's why he was getting divorced.
Dude, nothing. Yeah, so we really haven't even gone into the whole like divorce attorney and all that stuff. But like, my favorite story is when he's hiding from her in the closet. You have it, your series, and is he writing a heart-shaped box or something? One of those tracks.
No, those are two different. Those are two different things.
Okay, I thought she was trying to ask him if I could have that rift, and he was like, he like shut the door on her.
Yeah, he did once. She's doing this interview, probably with Rolling Stone, typically what it was actually the journalist would come to interview Kurt, and then she would interrupt.
Yeah,
and so she would get put into the article as well. As if they were interviewing her. Yeah, so she was working on, supposedly she had some lyrics, but she couldn't come up with a good riff that would go well with the lyrics. And Cobain said, hey, I got that for you. And she was like, it only took him like 5 minutes to do it. And it pissed me off, because basically she was saying it pisses me off that he's so talented, he doesn't even have to try.
Yeah, he could do it.
And I'm trying so hard, but can't come up with anything.
Nothing's coming up. You know, she's producing squat. Yeah, I just love that.
She's literally verbalizing her jealousy of her husband's talent.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, agreed. That's how I took it too. I thought it was funny when it was like, you know, he was working on one of her songs and one of his songs, and she's like, "Hey, can I have that?" He was like, I don't think so." Moving
the guns thing. If you read the police report, guns were found in the home. They did not find him in a closet with a gun. They say guns were found within the home. Okay, that's something she told to the press, and then later she apologized for and said it wasn't true.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I remember that too. The whole hidden compartment behind the bed or whatever. I think with the shotgun there at one point or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, that's when Dylan and Lanigan and Grant are looking. That totally different thing. You also have to think, like, a big house like that, a closet would be like a big walk-in closet.
Yeah, it's like my apartment behind me.
and when you're recording, especially to like how he used to do it with a cassette player, you want that small area for the acoustics. Yeah, you know, they call it lo-fi, like people are still into it. But anyway, I understand why he would be in a closet playing guitar, because the clothes in there would not allow the acoustics to bounce off hard surfaces, and he could record clearly.
Yeah, buffering the soundproofing.
Just like I have soundproofing behind me, right? If you go into a closet, your clothes work as soundproofing.
Yeah, so, that's what I thought.
Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. That's what I thought too. But yeah, just, you know, my problem with that last issue of the Azerrad thing. I'm like, I liked every chapter up until this. You just doubled down on this for no reason. It drove me crazy. I want to.
At the beginning of his fucking book, he's talking about how him and Kurt are so similar. So if you guys are so similar, are you gonna fucking unalive yourself too? Like,
throw him under the bus like that? Because
he goes from Kurt and I are so much alike to, oh, he was fucking crazy.
And I saw it coming along the whole time. And that was my other thought too. You saw it coming the whole time and you didn't think, hey, I've been writing this book on your life and your career. And by the way, like, is everything good at home, Kurt? Or how's your mental health? You know, you probably never had that conversation.
You didn't stop. You had access to this guy and you didn't like try to help him if he was so bad off.
Yeah, right. Know? And we didn't mention that narrative either. So like what his friends and family say, like people always forget, you know, you can listen to the Courtney version in the news, but by this time, he did the interview that the medicine was working on his stomach. He no longer had the IBS issue. He's happy about his daughter's future. It doesn't sound like depressed, like drug addict Kurt from a few years ago. Yeah.
Look, dude, I'll send you a link to a website where I don't know who runs this website, but they did a meticulous job of categorizing in chronological order a timeline of every Nirvana show, every Nirvana interview, every Nirvana TV show, anything they did throughout their career. Read the very last interview with Kurt Cobain. A lot of people think that Nardwuar was the last Kurt Cobain. It wasn't. There was a representative of Fender Guitar that they didn't record it with a camera or audio. It was just black and white, written.
Yep.
It was whatever. It was like promotion for Fender.
Yeah.
Kurt, read what Kurt's telling this guy in his very last fucking interview in, I think it was like late February of 94.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you'll see like, nah, this shit doesn't add up.
Yeah, 100%. No, I'll check it out for sure. I mean, like I said, me and Charlie are mostly in agreement on most of this stuff. I just want to go into something you did kind of a while back before your hiatus, which your patrons sent you out to. You're out in Aberdeen. You were out in the Pacific Northwest. You met Gary Cobain, and you had that on your channel. I hope it's still up. People can see you over there in his house with a lot of the original Cobain artifacts. Just your experience.
Well, I still have a lot of footage with Gary that I haven't shown, and I have conversations with Gary after I came home as well.
Mm-hmm.
Patrons have seen some of it, but not most of it.
Yeah, just break down.
Go ahead. What's your question?
Just break down your experience meeting Gary, who Gary is. Tell him, what you discussed. Maybe summarize your video. I mean, that was a super cool trip. You kind of brought us all into Gary's house. We kind of felt like we were there with you guys. That was just an awesome.
Yeah. Episode. Well, unfortunately, by the time I got word that I was going to be able to meet Gary, I had, how we have these little storage cards you can put in your phone. What are they called?
SIM cards.
Yeah. So I had filled up all these SIM cards with pictures and photos from all these different places around Seattle, because I'm like, it's a documentary, right? I'm literally recording everything I'm doing, retracing Cobain's steps. So by the time I got to Gary, the only thing I had left to record with was my shitty laptop, and it was so dark and smoky in his house that it's just like terrible video. But as you said, it feels real. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it just
retro footage.
yeah, I kind of liked it. Like it was just kind of felt 90s or something.
Gave it character.
One thing I did want to correct is I said that Gary Cobain was a Vietnam War veteran. Now, turns out Gary Cobain was not a Vietnam War veteran. The reason why I said that is he told me that he was conscripted to the army in 74 or 75, and he did not leave the army until Kurt got famous in 91. He says, I was in Germany when I found out that Kurt's Nevermind album was like selling like hotcakes.
Blew up, yeah.
So because he said he was conscripted into the army, Vietnam War went on until 75. So I assumed that he was conscripted to go to Vietnam. It turned out he was never in the Vietnam War. He was a lot of other places around the world, and he'd seen some shit. But so that was a mistake, by the way. But he was a cool guy, very country, very laid back, like just coffee and cigarettes kind of guy, Yeah. Oh, excuse me. One thing I did warn Gary about was I said, Gary, dude, as soon as I put this video on the internet, you are going to have people showing up at your house asking about this thing.
Yeah.
and we all know it ends up getting leaked and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And then here's an issue I've had. I'm glad you brought this up. The only time I've talked about it is the video I put out with Gary, while I'm there, like reading it, right?
Yep.
And then there was a live chat I did where I speculated about it when I got home. Sure. When I did that live chat, there was a fucking 10-minute long disclaimer about how I was not a professional and about how I'm going off memory.
Yep.
And I only had a very short period of time to look at it. Like when you see me looking at it on the camera, that's as long as I looked at it.
Yeah.
Like this wasn't a situation where he allowed me. Yeah. Like he wasn't allowing me to sit there and read through the whole thing. I also didn't know that the stack of papers he had included like Leland Cobain, Kurt's grandpa, became like an investigator on his own. He believed Kurt didn't unalive himself. Yep. So a lot of those papers that were included were not the autopsy. They were like other like police reports and other things that he had collected during his investigation. There's this whole story behind that. Like this English lady came and lived with Leland and how it was weird, man.
Right.
But anyway, so it just amazed me that I gave a 10-minute fucking long disclaimer on how what is the worst testimony? Eyewitness testimony is the worst. What is eyewitness testimony? It's memory.
Yeah.
And I'm telling people I'm sleep deprivated. I just flew an 8-hour fucking flight. I'm not a professional. I'm just speculating on what I saw.
Absolutely.
And people took that like it was God's word.
Yeah.
So I fucking told them not to. Right?
Yeah. You got a big channel in your defense.
Well, I mean, I don't look at it as a big channel. I look at somebody with like 200,000-300,000 subscribers as a big channel. You know what I mean?
For sure. It makes sense.
So it really shocked me. I think two things. That one thing that you mentioned earlier and this thing got mixed together. You talked about the funeral home and how they may have desecrated Kurt's body.
Yeah.
And they paid out an undisclosed sum.
Yeah.
I said on that diagram that I was shown, there's a line pointing to the groin. I don't know what the fuck it meant. The thing was, I didn't want to talk to Gary about it because it's his nephew.
Right. Yeah.
So I glanced over it. Like I seen the line and some words, and then I was like, oh, never mind. And I moved on. Like I'm not going to sit there and talk to a dude about his nephew's wiener. Right.
Yeah. Right. Makes a lot of sense.
And so we're speculating, like, what does this mean? Did Courtney give him herpes? Like, what the fuck does this mean? And then later when it's leaked, people are like, he lied about it. Some dude even made a fucking video saying that I told people that his junk was cut off or something. Like I thought that was the most immature, childish bullshit. This is like a 40, 50-year-old man saying this shit.
Insane.
No, all I said was there was a line to it. What does it mean? Let's speculate. That was it.
Yeah, possible damage.
So that totally pissed me off. But that's not the reason I went on a hiatus. I went on a hiatus because I got shot.
No, that's I did see you post something about that. So just a little context. So Gary Cobain is Kurt's uncle, and I talked to a couple of his other relatives too that I haven't even mentioned. One of them I have on camera. Awesome. That's super interesting. And then what Charlie's talking about here is actually reading the autopsy report when he was over there at Gary's house. So there's a massive internet controversy. I'm not really going to get into any of that. I'm just about the facts here.
I didn't even know there really is to this day. There's a controversy. I never paid attention, man. I like literally
just a back and forth. I mean, I contacted you when Grant leaked it on his website. It was all over Twitter. That's where I saw it.
Dude, they fucking stole it. They literally like a person. My patrons have known this for months. Yeah. I talked to Gary. He didn't give it to anybody. He's an elderly man. They went there. One person distracted him while the other took pictures. Yeah. And like there are two diagrams, and I'm happy to show the other one. One is a copy. One is the original. Sure. Right. Fucking what I don't understand. The same people who literally committed a felony, stole government documents out of an elderly man's home from right underneath his nose, are acting like I'm a bad guy. Is that what I'm hearing? Because that makes no sense to me.
Yeah, same. I mean,
I was defending their family's right to privacy, and people think it's cool that they stole shit from this old man.
Now, I mean, I was all about where your videos were going with it, where you said, you know, hey, Gary has the right to release this if should he decide to sell it, or should he decide to, the family should decide. I mean, I was where you presented it, you know. That's where
I could have asked Gary, honestly. I probably could have gotten him to give it to me right then. I could, you know, it would have been the icing on the cake, dude. I did a 4-year investigation. I found the autopsy where it was. Yeah. I would have been fucking famous right now.
Go release it on your YouTube.
But Gary asked me not to, so my morals told me don't do it.
Yeah.
And then as soon as these motherfuckers stole it, they put it on the internet and then act like I'm the bad guy. Like, where are your fucking morals at?
Yeah, I don't understand that at all. I mean,
Kurt's dad was really upset. Like he called Gary, like, man, how did this get, you know? And I did in my defense, I told Gary, there are going to be people coming. You shouldn't trust them just because they're Kurt fans. They're going to do anything they can to get their hands on this. And he didn't listen to me. One more thing I want to say about this.
Yep.
I was also being told that there were going to be repercussions, that, you know, something was going to be done about it, because it really is a felony, especially stealing from an elderly person is a whole new class of felony. And he just said fuck it and didn't do anything. So I defended someone who wasn't defending themselves, and it made me look like a jackass.
No, I mean, you never came across that way to me, but you know, the internet will.
Well, you're smart. You're smart. Most people are fucking stupid.
Yeah, it's
like
true.
You have to understand, most people on the internet are fucking stupid.
Oh yeah, we know.
You have common sense.
Yeah. We believe me, we get more in the Zodiac community than you would know of. I mean, when you dive into serial killers and Jack the Ripper, you might end up with a few over on your end. You know
they're more interested in drama and conflict than the actual topic.
Exactly. Yeah, that's
right.
I don't know.
And I understand, like, I'm interrupting the shit out of you. I'm not an easily likable guy. Like, I'm very opinionated. So I get it that there would be a group of people who do not like me. But I also think it's bullshit that they would go as far as to, like, you know, question my morals when I could have done what they did months before they did it.
Not to.
And I chose not to because I was obeying the family's wishes.
Yeah. Like, only on the internet does doing the right thing make you the bad guy, Charlie.
Yeah, and the dude who leaked it, he knew it was stolen.
Yeah,
he knew it was stolen. He didn't give a fuck.
Yeah, that's
dude. Let me read something to you real quick.
Go for it. This is your platform.
You remember I interviewed Captain Neil Lowe?
Yep.
So after I interviewed him, I said, "How would you like to meet Gary Cobain? You know, we have the autopsy, and he would like to talk to you about it." And this was his response. I'm gonna have to find it because I've got all these fucking messages, dude.
All good, no worries. Subscribe to American Spyfox. Join the Patreon. Okay. This was.
Yeah. He's going on and on about how I'm talking shit about me. But I asked him if he'd like to see it, and his response will blow your mind. Jesus Christ, I didn't realize how much I talked to this guy.
There were a couple good comments: podcast politics and internet logic, which is, you know, doing the right thing making you wrong.
I'll have to send it to you, and you can post it if you want. But essentially, he responded to me, and he said, "I wouldn't trust that autopsy unless the blue ink was dripping off of it and I watched the doctor sign it." And then 2 weeks later, he's in a video talking about it.
Oh my God, bro.
Dude, I swear to God. I'm like,
I'll do a short
when I saw the video, I was like, this dude just said he doesn't trust Gary Cobain. Now he's making a video about it. Yeah. And it was stolen. Like it was given to them from a thief.
Yeah, he didn't trust it coming from you, but any random who hands it over. Well,
but the thief who stole it, he's good.
It's a reliable source, man. What is going on? Man, guys, I hope you guys are enjoying the show. Like, sub, and share.
Oh yeah, I guess people were giving him a lot of shit about, if you were questioning this case back in the 90s, why didn't you do something then when you had authority?
Yeah.
And it's like now 30 years later, when it's safe and your career is over, right now you want to write books about it and get fans and shit to love you for taking up for Kurt Cobain. Why didn't you take up for Kurt Cobain when you were a fucking police captain, dude?
When you had authority,
right
now you're making a book following,
Anyway, there's a really, really long conversation. I'll send it to you. You can read through it yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I'll check it out for sure.
So you could imagine me in the background of all this. Like, how did I become the bad guy? And I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone, bro.
Oh yeah, no. I'm gonna do a fan comment. Charlie definitely did the right thing, respectful and honorable move. Again, like you said, internet logic.
Thank you.
Internet logic. Charlie the bad guy. Oh my God, he's respecting the wishes of the family. What a terrible person.
Right. Would you like me to tell you why there's two different diagrams?
Sure. Yeah. This is your.
This is interesting. It's actually, it might help people who are like you who research true crime cases. So. Sure. There are certain states like Washington where something like unaliving is kept private and only the family can choose what to do with it, right?
Yep.
To prevent employees at the medical records office from stealing these things, they don't even have scanners or printers. So here's what's interesting, and this is why originally I thought it was Neil Lowe who stole it, but it turns out it wasn't Neil at all. So I do apologize to Neil for that. I'm a big enough man to say I was wrong.
Sure.
If there's an audit, which Neil Lowe told me he audited the case. What does the IRS do when they audit you? They want to see everything, right? All your receipts, all your shit. Same when you audit a criminal investigation, you get to see everything, including the autopsy report. But in some states, especially at that time, if it's private, you cannot copy it. You have to go in with a new template, like the body, and look at it, draw, look at it, write. You can't just take the original. You're not allowed to do that, right? I talked to two different corners about this, and because I said, is there any reason there would ever be two diagrams? Mm-hmm. Okay. The other thing is, shit. I'm sorry, I just got off track for a second. So I talked to two corners about this. When the first one that's made is done by the coroner. What are they looking at?
Cause of death.
No, I mean, like when they're detailing, they're looking at the body.
Oh yeah, for sure.
There's a body right in front of them, and they're okay. So when another guy comes along to copy it, and he's hand copying it, he's looking at a piece of paper. He's not looking at the body.
Exactly.
So it's open to interpretation. Like what was the way he draws it may be different than the way it was originally drawn. He may think, oh, that's just a tiny little scrape. That's a scab. That's, so because I asked two different corners, I was going to ask Weck, but unfortunately he passed away.
Yep.
Is there any reason, have you ever seen a case where there would be two different diagrams? And he said, yes, if there's an audit or if it's a cold case and they've reopened and a new investigator needs to copy it. Because it's through interpretation, it's human error. Yeah, isn't that interesting, dude?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's
and Leland did his own investigation. Like he had all kinds of shit in that stack of papers I was looking through.
Oh yeah.
Like, so anyway, but as my patrons knew months ago, I literally recorded a conversation with Gary, and Gary described it, like explained it, like, and then at the same time there's people on the internet apparently putting me down and they don't even know what the fuck they're talking about.
But, well, it's easy.
Right. Was there any other questions you'd like to ask?
I just had some follow-up stuff, nothing really on the autopsy or Kurt. I just want people to check out your Jimi Hendrix series. You did amazing work. I learned a crap ton about the shadowy manager, what was going on with Hendrix and the questions about his death. Did you finish that series, or are you still planning on continuing in it? Or
Did I not finish that? I thought I did.
I think it was 2 parts.
Maybe I didn't.
Yeah,
I need to go back and look. I know I still have an in utero. There was supposed to be 3 videos to the Nirvana in utero series, and I've only done 2. And I'd like to do more on Alice in Chains as well.
That was my next question. I'm a massive Alice in Chains fanboy, as you know. So I know you had an issue with like you were using the songs, so YouTube was flagging you or whatever. So I just if you're still planning on doing Alice in Chains, we definitely want to know about that.
Yeah, I'm highly, as you see, I'm in a new, well, you can't really see my background, but I'm in a new place. I got into real estate and ended up buying like 9 fucking houses, and I ended up refurbishing them on my own, and like, oh, dude, there's
tough work.
Yeah, like, now I kind of wish I wouldn't have been doing all this, because I think because of this unfolding drama that I was unaware of, my silence like made people believe that they were correct, and it just got worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes people's life gets in the way of YouTube. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, right. Like, I don't make money off YouTube. I do real things in real life to take care of my family.
Right,
you know?
right.
So now I'm like a landlord, and I have, responsibilities to tenants and all this stuff. And
sure.
So I am finally back, like, in this position where I have time to start writing videos again, and I would love to finish anything that I stopped. Or again, I'd really like, you mentioned at the beginning of this that I'm into metal. I would like to write some videos on metal bands as well.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
I mean, I got into grunge, but I love metal too.
Yeah, I'm sure you have to, bro. How old are you?
I'm 39.
Okay, so you're like my age. Yeah, you're gonna love those late 90s metal bands as much as anyone.
Yes, sir.
So if anybody has a request of a band they'd like to see a video on, let me know, and I'll try to get one for you.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought you did such a good job on Cobain and Hendrix that back when I used to message you back in the day, I was always wondering your take on Morrison, because that's a very similar narrative. I mean, the Morrison timeline of the days is like, it's very questionable. Highly questionable.
Yeah.
Hendrix.
You're right.
That's what I mean. Maybe me and you, or if you ever get to it, maybe you put that on your list down the line. And then Spyfox had a really good. I don't know when you fell off on your Jeffrey Epstein research, but I remember when you got stuck on that. Your Epstein video went viral. You got a crap ton of views on that, which was. That was my first controversy. People started saying that I was buying subscribers. It's just because
I got like 7,000 subscribers in like one day. And yeah. Reddit is a motherfucker, ain't it?
Yeah. I'm sure they're on me there too on Zodiac. I don't even look at it.
Oh, they will. If your channel grows, people will fuck with you too.
I have that to look forward to. Charlie did Jeffrey Epstein. He absolutely killed it. And then again, that Courtney Epstein connection was highly questionable. I like the way Spyfox tied those together. So that was super interesting.
Thank you.
I got a lot of questions about that. Not right now, but just in general.
I hate it. I hate it that no other content creator, because there are much bigger content creators who did tons of videos on Epstein, but they never mentioned Courtney Love.
Never brought it up. You know what I mean?
It's like,
So I'll come to the end here. I don't want to keep Charlie all night long, guys, but that series was awesome. His Alice in Chains series, absolutely incredible. Your Chris Cornell possibly unaliving himself conspiracy series, because my friend Wall Street here and I were both massive Soundgarden fans. So man, I thought you really killed that one, because I thought that was almost just as sketchy as Cobain and Hendrix. I mean, the last events of his life and things of that nature. Of course, his wife having the close connection to Courtney. You said they're close friends, or that was an issue for us.
Vicky was in an interview talking about how Courtney Love gave her advice on being a widow.
Yeah, and what kind of advice? Yeah, that's the person we want giving advice, right, guys? We all know how that works out when Courtney gives advice. But yeah, I mean, there's too much to even cover in one interview, guys. You really have to check out Charlie's series. Of course, you go into the issues with Kurt's daughter and the guy she was seeing at the time, and then Courtney gets roped into that, and that gets weird fast. Whole bunch more issues there revolving around that stuff, which was definitely interesting. So check out Charlie's series for that. Pretty much nothing else, man. I watched most of Singles last night. Everybody always talks about it's kind of like a 92, like I guess rom-com, right? Like predecessor to the rom-com. But it has the Alice in Chains performance in the beginning. Everyone always talks about that, but I didn't hear as many people talk about Soundgarden performing later on in the film. It's a very short scene, but I thought that was epic.
The first band they asked obviously was Nirvana, but Kurt turned it down.
We turned him down. Yeah. Kurt was saying that some cover band played like a few bars of a Nirvana track. I don't know if I missed that or if I didn't see that in the movie yet, but
I recall. I know what you're talking about, but I'm not. Maybe you can enlighten me.
Yeah, there's an interview of Kurt saying that, and he says from what I've heard. So I'm not even sure Kurt ever saw the movie, at least at the time that he was interviewed.
At the time, this whole concept of sellout was a big deal. Yeah. So people like me who thought we're real punk rockers. We don't watch Hollywood movies, but then later in my life, I watched it and enjoyed it.
No, for sure. I mean, I always heard about it, and then your channel kind of reminded me. It's like, hey, Alice in Chains performs in this movie, and it's just kind of funny because like what you expect from the grunge era, you're like, oh, a grunge movie, it's got to be like a hardcore, like following the grunge movement, which is really not what Singles is, but it does have the backdrop of Seattle grunge,
I think it really helped Pearl Jam. That movie really helped Pearl Jam break into the mainstream.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and then Pearl Jam had, Eddie Vedder has some cameo roles, and then of course Cornell has his couple cameos as well. But that's pretty much all we got from Charlie, man. Really appreciate you doing this. Spyfox, you're the man. Subscribe to his YouTube channel. Go get his Patreon if you want to see the unedited, uncensored, without the YouTube issues. That's pretty much all I got for you, my man. I really appreciate you doing this, and thanks for everybody who came through live. Video will be on demand right after this. All the links are below in the description. Really looking forward to your new videos, man, and I'm going to get over there on that Patreon myself because I want to see what you're doing over there.
Okay, well, closing statement. Thank you to everybody I haven't really done a Nirvana series video in almost a year. As we talked about, I will be posting at least a couple more to YouTube because I found new cool stuff to talk about that I didn't think was possible at this point, but I have. And I want to just thank everybody who have stayed interested and wanted to see me make more videos and stuff like that. Like, there's so many more cool people than there are negative.
I agree. Yeah. And definitely looking forward for you to branch out into those other topics such as true crime and stuff like that. So hopefully if we're ever able to, hopefully you and I can do another video or something else together.
For sure, man.
Appreciate you, brother. Right. Have a good night. You're the man.
Take it easy.
Thank you, sir. I'm just going to take us out for an outro. That is Charlie Elliott, the American Spyfox. You can subscribe to his channel below at the American Spyfox or at American Spyfox if you want to get that in the chat for me, Pixie. His Patreon, as he said, that's below in the description, Charlie Elliott. So this is the Cobain. What did I title this video? Let me go look on YouTube. It is the Cobain Conspiracy Files Volume 1. Charlie of the American Spyfox channel. And like I said, his Nirvana series is really really spot on. He goes into every detail, like everything we mentioned, just the way it starts from Kurt, Nirvana history, to Kurt and Courtney's relationship, to all these other characters, Dylan Carlson, Elden Hoke, Alan Wrench, and then, kind of the spiral from there. We really didn't go into a lot of other things because I think last I checked, I think his series is 22 videos long and some are like 30 to 40 to 60 minutes. So there was a lot more about, Kurt putting in thank you, Pixie. I'll pop that up there. Kurt putting in the divorce from Courtney. We really didn't go into Billy Corgan. I saw you guys mention that in the chat. Billy was always calling Courtney at the house, and Kurt did not like that. Obviously, Kurt was not a fan of Billy Corgan. I don't know any of us that are Nirvana fans or really big Smashing Pumpkins fans, but as the guy personally, he's a pretty brutal guy. So, the rumor was that Kurt was putting through the divorce with Courtney. So you also have that backdrop as well. Courtney obviously doesn't want that to happen. You guys know who's going to end up with with mostly the royalty money, which is millions, but also their Nirvana music rights. And that's why we had that whole rift between the surviving members of Nirvana, David Grohl, Chris Novoselic, versus Courtney. And that's why they were trying to do was the In Utero box set or one of those re-release box sets. And that was when we got the last Nirvana song, You Know You're Right. And take a look at those lyrics to You Know You're Right. And it seems like, it sounds like Kurt basically running away from a problem. I will never bother you. I will never follow you. It's interesting for that to be the last Nirvana song, right, to me, because a lot of people interpret that as Kurt, wanting to leave Courtney. What's up, Evie? How's it going, man? I'll do 2 or 3 minutes with you guys, but I was just on with almost 2 hours with Spyfox. So if you have any final questions for me on the Cobain Conspiracy Files Volume 1 or anything on, Charlie's Nirvana series or any general grunge questions, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, Chris Cornell, Kurt Cobain, Temple of the Dog, Mad Season, or if you want to talk Zodiac really quick, I got a panel with Jerome, my friend Jerome from the channel French Wrecking Crew. Drew Beeson will be joining us, the author, drewbeesonbooks.com. Ned DeHaan, Black Box Online Radio, Druzer, who was just on my last volume 13 of the Zodiac interview. And I'll have Zodiac interviews coming back soon. Like Charlie was saying, guys, despite YouTube, I know people want me to do Zodiac 24/7. We do actually have real lives. I've been extremely busy on something that I will be finished with this week, and that'll basically free me up to do PXF True Crime full-time if that's what you guys want. Obviously, YouTube. Go ahead and check out my Patreon below. There's not that much on it, but I have been doing a series on all the versions of The Most Dangerous Game, referenced by the Zodiac, which is a Joseph Conrad book. And then that gets made into a movie called The Most Dangerous Game. There's almost like 10 remakes, adaptations of The Most Dangerous Game. It goes all the way up to like Surviving the Game with Ice-T, if you've seen that in the 90s, and even a Hard Target with Jean-Claude Van Damme. Those are actually late iterations of The Most Dangerous Game remakes, which is super interesting if you follow the film reviews I do with Mosh Shinobi. What's that called? The Idaho 4 or the Idaho 5 or whatever. I followed it briefly when it happened. I mean, Drew Beeson is much more better on me than Missing Students and those kind of more recent contemporary murders, as I call them. But as you guys know, I'm a Zodiac, Jack the Ripper, Texarkana Phantom guy. I do a little bit of DB Cooper. This is my first episode of the Cobain Conspiracy, which you can always check out the documentary Soaked in Bleach. It's worth seeing. Of course, it's got Cyril Wetched in it. Rest in peace. There's really nobody better on this topic than Charlie, guys. If his YouTube gets sensitive and YouTube zaps him for censorship for whatever reasons, and that could be strange stuff too, definitely I would recommend going to his Patreon. But think that is it for me. If you guys got nothing else for me, shout out to everybody who came through. Epic, Pixie, appreciate your help in the chat with the links and the mods. Shout out to Joey. Shout out Steven for coming through. EV just popped up. Hopefully I didn't miss any of you guys. Some people came in and out. So we'll be doing stuff more. Don't have no fear. Zodiac Files episodes 5 and 6 will be coming soon. I think with my schedule freed up, I can get it moving. Of course, me and the editor will have to edit once we shoot it. But in the meantime, check out episode 4, the Gaviota Beach Murders. Likes, subs, and shares are definitely helpful on there. The YouTube algorithm has kind of been up and down, guys. It hasn't been that great to us. Of course, we have the comic book on Amazon, the Dark Rift Volume 1, Escape from Earth. Check that out. If you're feeling froggy, why don't you go purchase a Alice in Chains Dirt vinyl. There's deluxe editions and a couple good editions of that. I went ahead and I picked up the In Utero. I know some of the original grunge guys, are loving it. This is the 2 CD set. I believe there's a 3 or 4 CD set. Depends how much money you want to burn on grunge material. But all of that is out there and available. So, man, I thought that was an awesome interview. I was super hyper excited to talk about grunge because I don't really have anyone to talk about grunge rock with on my channel or anywhere else except for a few personal friends that are, you know, old school grunge heads and listen to grunge. So that's it for me. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate Fire Pixie. Appreciate everybody who came through. We'll be back with Zodiac Files interview, volume 14, and then the main series, episodes 5 and 6, which I think you guys will find interesting because we really have some stuff to go in there. Oh, I talk about grunge with you, Pixie. I mean, it's basically me, you, and Charlie, and a couple other people in the chat. You know what I mean? But no, I'm a grunge head. If you guys don't know, that's like that's kind of my big genre. I do like metal. I do listen to other stuff, but hope you guys. But there's that's what it is, guys. That's it for me. Oh yeah, link Fire Pixie. We should probably shoot you the link of the comic, but I'll usually stick it in the description. We'll get that out there. I think that's it for me, folks. Thank you. Thank you all for coming through. Like, sub, share, click join if you want to be a member or membership. Eventually, we're going to be doing subscriber-only shows. So this is a really cool one. Appreciate Charlie, and his channel's awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a good night. Have a good Sunday. Panel on Zodiac on Jerome's show tomorrow, 1 p.m. West Coast time, but it's a European-based channel. I think he said it's 10 p.m. for Belgium. So that is what it is. I'll be on that talking Zodiac with those guys tomorrow. So go over there and subscribe to Jerome at French Wrecking Crew, or actually I posted in the community tab. So just get the link there. Thank you, guys. Hope you enjoyed the show. Peace. Maybe I'll be back on Cobain Conspiracy Files Volume 2 if I ever see fit to get it scheduled. Yeah, I check out my DB Cooper series. I think I have 5 or 6 episodes on that. That will be coming back. I do have some guests I want to do interviews on Cooper with, a few more probably in after October. I always do Zodtober for October for Zodiac, and then we'll do Cooper in November. Thanks, guys. Check it out. Like, sub, share. Click the join for the membership. Patron below. Join Charlie's Patreon. Subscribe to his channel. We're out. PXF True Crime, The Cobain Conspiracy Files, Volume 1, American Spy.